now. That's the kind of stockpile they have.
Yes, and Geeta, since we are talking about the ballistic missiles, we are talking about the Fatah 2, the shorter range and others. Let's do a comparison between how the stockpiles of both these sides are. Because Iran, remember, has launched hundreds of ballistic missiles. And nearly 1,000 drones in retaliatory images which have emerged from multiple cities. In fact, 28 centers have been targeted. These are largely the US bases, the Gulf states, in Saudi Arabia, in UAE, in Bahrain, in Qatar, in Kuwait. And proxies like Hezbollah have also joined with rockets and drones from Lebanon. And Geeta, in terms of the comparison, if we were to do the cruise missiles, on one hand you have the Tomahawks, on the other precision strike missiles on one hand, which is the US, which has struck over 1,250 targets in Iran with more than 20 weapon systems, and they are focusing largely on the air superiority missile sites. On the other hand, the ballistic missiles are being used by Iran. They are against Israel and other nations in the Middle East. We are looking at a situation right now, Geeta, where drone attack has happened on the US Embassy in Riyadh in Saudi Arabia. 2 drones have struck the compound, which has caused minor fire and also damaged it. The Saudi authorities have reported it, and this is coming amidst all these Iranian movements which are happening. There's continued heavy Israeli strikes on Tehran. New waves targeted multiple sites, including a site which was near Iran's state broadcaster, which is the state TV. Israeli strikes expand to Beirut, Lebanon, targeting Hezbollah command centers, weapon storage, and a media building in southern suburbs. And that has killed 31 to 52 people. The cost of war is rising, Geeta.
Right.
Iranian missiles being intercepted over Israel. Iran is also responding by attacking the multiple countries and US embassies in particular. Because just a few minutes ago, the US embassy in Jerusalem actually put out a post on X where they said that if you are an American stuck in Jerusalem, find your own way. We can't really help you at this point.
Isn't that really dire and grim and dark, Maria, that America, that has always held a citizen's life paramount, the most important thing anywhere, today stands helpless? Where was the calculation when they thought they're going to go in? Imagine Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, says that these are preemptive strikes. And how is he calling them preemptive strikes? He says these are preemptive strikes because we knew that, that there was going to be an attack on Iran and that Iran would retaliate, so that's why struck them. So you are striking someone who had no plans of striking you, but will surely retaliate if you attack. Yes. That's not preemptive. Preemptive is if you hit someone because you think they're going to attack. Period. You're stopping a war. That's preemptive strike. You're not. There's no preemptive strike saying that we know we were going to hit them and they're going to hit back, so we hit them. That's not preemptive. And that's the Secretary of State of the United States of America. There has to be some clarity, some answering as to what's the intelligence they had on carrying out the attacks. If it is just that Iran is at its weakest today, that doesn't cut it. Look at the loss. In a few days, you will see in numbers, Maria, the economic cost of what has been carried out. And this at a time when they were at the negotiating table. Araghchi said in his interview, when I asked him, how are you going in? Do you trust? Is there trust and intent? He said, well, there is no trust and there is no intent that I see from the American side, is because the last time around we were negotiating, we were attacked. And I'm not sure that I'm going into a conversation with the Americans and that they will not attack. And look what has happened. But you made a very important point. You were talking about comparison, and I've just pulled out data. And that data clearly spells out what the strength between Iran and Israel. Now, it could sound very simplistic because if you do an Iran-Israel comparison, then that doesn't cut it because Israel also has America.
Yes.
But let's just do a plain, simple Iran-Israel, right? An Iran-Israel comparison on the kind of numerical strength that Iran has. Who holds more in numbers and who holds more in terms of strength? Numerically, if you see, it says that Iran is far ahead of Israel. It operates roughly 2,675 tanks compared with Israel's 1,300. Iran also deploys around 1,550 mobile launchers, which is why it is difficult to just take out the launchers because they're not fixed. The fixed ones have been taken out, but they have mobile rocket launchers far exceeding Israel's 228, 1,550 versus 228. But the comparison is only Israel versus Iran because we were talking about them. However, if you look at the deeper comparison, there is no way that Iran can continue and sustain with American support that comes for Israel. However, everything is finite. No munition is infinite. No support structure over here for Israel would be infinite. There are numbers. There are 2 carriers alone. And you know this whole thing of, but America has 11 aircraft carriers. Only 3 at any given time are operational.
Gita, but while we look at the carriers and the firepower and the stockpiles, let's not forget which has been put out just a few minutes ago and what you were highlighting. The U.S. Embassy in Jerusalem saying can't evacuate Americans from Israel. I think that certainly sends a message of what could be going wrong. The U.S., it seems, has abandoned its citizens in war-torn Israel. U.S. Embassy in Jerusalem has put out a tweet saying can't evacuate Americans from Israel. Leave via Israel tourism shuttles to Egypt. Limited options to leave Israel is what U.S. Embassy is saying. It has also warned exit via Jordan too risky, but it says you are on your own. At any point, if you think any of these is about safety, I cannot promise you. All U.S. government personnel in Israel have been ordered to shelter in place to take some kind of, go to some safety. But the question is, because of limited flights expected out of these airports, what really can be done? U.S. Ambassador, in fact, has warned Americans very limited options to leave Israel. Best exit option is currently via Israel tourism shuttles to Taba in Egypt. And Taba border crossing actually is open for next 24 hours. Limited flights from Taba and Sharm el-Sheikh. U.S. does not recommend exit via Jordan at this time. This is shocking, and it is a matter of huge concern because Embassy has now urged Americans to enroll in STEP program for emergency updates. Red alert warnings are there, but when it is about evacuation, if America cannot evacuate its own citizens, then who can, Gita?
Mike Huckabee, who has been rather hawkish when it comes to Iran, and look at the interview he'd given Tucker Carlson. We are looking at a situation, Maria, where it does seem like the Americans did not look at the larger plan, look at it beyond 2 days, because they thought it's an in and out game with Iran. History has shown us that Iran is not an easy game. It's not an easy prey. And so when you do what you've done, and there were clear warnings. It's not like Iran did not tell them what they were going to do. It was in plain sight. Iran had said exactly what they're going to do, and they're doing exactly what they're doing. In fact, if anyone, it's Israel and US who have to answer for why did they go ahead and attack when the negotiations were underway. I'm only saying this is because war never ever helps anything or anyone. Look at what they've done to the Middle East, to West Asia. People who thought that this is the safest place, Americans who have built their life around working in the Middle East and a future with the Middle East, today are stuck. Who's going to answer? Forget about Americans. I mean, it's for the US administration. Indians who are stranded there. Everybody, almost everyone we know, Maria, you and I, have friends, family in the Middle East, in West Asia, worried, calling, no way out. Who gives any country the right to have so many people held hostage in an entire region where nobody is being allowed or is being able to leave? I mean, look at the chaos over here. There has to be an exit strategy, and this cannot go on.
Yes.
2 days is tops that I give it, because then the administration will have to respond. If Iran can hold 2 days, then America has to rethink its strategy. This is giving too much space.
Because, Geeta, just a few minutes ago again, China has come out in support of Iran openly now, saying that
they've been open about it, but this is the loudest they're saying. So
they are saying it the loudest, and this is coming after UK Prime Minister Starmer said that the lessons have been learned from the Iraq War. This is day 4 of the Operation Epic Fury. US continues to bomb key Iranian targets. US and Israel have now launched strikes at key military targets in Iran. The Israeli Air Force eliminated soldiers from the defense array of Iran. The Air Force aircraft attacked and neutralized a squad of soldiers from Iran. Israeli Air Force continues to attack sites of Iranian ballistic missile launchers. Last night, US B-1 bombers struck deep inside Iran to degrade Iranian ballistic missile capabilities. US has said that it will destroy their missiles and raise their missile industry to the ground. US forces have said that they are now hitting Iran surgically, overwhelmingly, and unapologetically. US has further said that Operation Epic Fury was now laser, which is focused on destroying Iranian offensive missiles. They have hit Iranian warships which have been deployed in Gulf of Oman, and have said that they will continue to defend their assets. Meanwhile, India Today's special animated video shows the bird-eye view of the last 3 days of this war.
We're not going to go into the exercise of what we will or will not do.
Our objectives are clear. First, we're
fallacies for a long time.
Destroying Iran's missile capabilities, and you see that happening on an hourly basis, and their capacity to produce brand new ones, and pretty good ones they make. Second, we're annihilating their Navy. We've knocked out already 10 ships. They're at the bottom of the sea. Third, we're ensuring that the world's #1 sponsor of terror can never obtain a nuclear weapon. Never going to have a nuclear weapon. I said that from the beginning. They're never going to have a nuclear weapon. They were on the road to getting one legitimately through a deal that was signed foolishly by our country. And finally, we're ensuring that the Iranian regime cannot continue to arm, fund, and direct terrorist armies outside of their borders.
They're suffering a tremendous amount of damage. Honestly, again, I'm not going to give away the details of our tactical efforts, but the hardest hits are yet to come from the U.S. military. The next phase will be even more punishing on Iran than it is right now. Someone was screaming, how long will it take? I don't know how long it'll take. We have objectives. We will do this as long as it takes to achieve those objectives, and we will achieve those objectives. The world will be a safer place when we're done with this operation.
I hear the people are saying, we're going to have an endless war here. You're not going to have an endless war. Now, of course, it's up to the people of Iran in the final count to to change the government, but we are creating, America and Israel together are creating the conditions for them to do so. And I think peace between Israel and Saudi Arabia would be really possible and probably very close once this thing happens. So this is a gateway for peace, for a broader peace, and I believe that we can achieve it.
Explosions in West Asia have rattled Dalal Street, triggering a sharp sell-off at the open. The Nifty and Sensex both sank, wiping out nearly 8 lakh crore rupees in matter of minutes. Aviation and export-linked stocks slid amidst disruptions in the Gulf, while crude climbed above $82 a barrel on fear around the Strait of Hormuz, which is now shut. The impact wasn't limited to India. European markets also fell broadly. Here's a report explaining the impact of war on the markets.
Well, the Iran-Israel conflict is no longer just a regional security story. It is rapidly becoming a global trade and energy shock. And for India, the risks are very real. At the heart of the concern are two critical maritime choke points, the Strait of Hormuz and Bab el-Mandeb Strait. In fact, the Strait of Hormuz connects the Persian Gulf to the Arabian Sea. Roughly a fifth of the world's crude oil passes through this narrow stretch of water every single day. For India, it is even more significant. A large share of our crude imports transit through this corridor. The Bab el-Mandeb, meanwhile, links the Red Sea to the Gulf of Aden. It is a key route for shipments heading towards the Suez Canal and onward to Europe. Any instability there forces vessels to detour around Africa, adding weeks to delivery timelines and sharply increasing freight and insurance costs. So what happens if tensions escalate further? First, oil prices spike. Even the threat of disruption pushes up global crude benchmarks. For a country like India, which imports more than 80% of its crude requirement, that translates directly into a higher import bill, pressure on the rupee and the potential inflationary stress. Second, shipping costs surge. Exporters already dealing with rerouted Red Sea traffic have reported longer transit times and higher logistics expenses. If Gulf routes become more uncertain, those costs could climb further, squeezing margins for Indian exporters from engineering goods to textiles and pharmaceuticals. Third, there is the broader trade linkage. The Gulf is not just an energy supplier. It is a major destination for Indian goods and home to millions of Indian workers whose remittances form a crucial foreign exchange buffer. Disruption in the region affects both trade flows and financial inflows. Now, India does have some buffers. Strategic petroleum reserves provide short-term cushioning. Diversified sourcing, including Russian oil, offers flexibility. But alternative routes are longer and alternative suppliers are often more expensive. The bigger question is duration. A short-lived flare-up creates volatility. A prolonged shutdown or sustained maritime risk, however, can structurally raise shipping costs, alter trade routes, and inject persistent inflation into the global system. For now, markets are watching the Gulf very closely because what happens in these narrow waterways does not stay there. It moves fuel prices, freight rates, currencies, and ultimately household budgets across the world. And for India, the message is clear. Geopolitical turbulence in the Gulf is no longer distant. It's economic, immediate, and deeply interconnected with our growth story.
Let's look at the Strait of Hormuz. Why is it significant? Why is there so much chatter around it now? It's a narrow maritime passage between Iran to the north and Oman and the United Arab Emirates to the south. It connects the Persian Gulf to the Gulf of Oman and the Arabian Sea, and from there, the global markets. At its narrowest point, the strait is just about 33 kilometers wide, with shipping lanes even narrower, making it highly vulnerable in times of conflict. Why is it so important? Because roughly 1/5 of the world's oil passes through this corridor every single day. We are looking at 1/5 of the global oil supply. Major oil producers, that is Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Kuwait, UAE and Qatar, depend on it for exports. It is also critical for global LNG, which is liquefied natural gas, shipments, especially from Qatar. So any disruption here sends oil prices soaring globally, impacting fuel costs, inflation, stock markets and energy security worldwide. So why does it matter in this war? Iran has repeatedly warned that if it is cornered, it could move to disrupt or block the Strait of Hormuz. It has already done that. It has blocked and shut the Strait of Hormuz. Tehran cannot legally close it outright under international law, but it can. The message that is coming in from Tehran is that it will harass and attack commercial tankers if they actually pass through this, deploy naval mines, use fast attack boats and drones. Even the threat of disruption is enough to rattle global markets. The US maintains a significant naval presence in this region precisely to keep this artery open. So it's a crucial artery, almost like the oil artery of the entire world. Now the question on everyone's mind is, when can we realistically look at the end of this war? And can this war really come to an end? We'll leave you with this special report by India Today's Sandeep Unithan, who has decoded the Israel-Iran strategy games, as well as the weapons arsenal that could turn out to be key.
For over 3 days now, the United States and Israel have been attacking Iran. Iran has retaliated by firing ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, and drones. This is an intense war of the kind that hasn't been seen since the invasion of Iraq by the United States and its coalition in 2003. But there are two strategies at play over here. The US and Israel have a strategy. The Iranians have a strategy. Let's try and understand what two strategies are at play here, because how this plays out will be determined by which strategy wins. Now, to look at Israel and US's strategy, the operations are called Epic Fury and Roaring Lion. The primary objectives seem to be regime change through decapitation strikes, which means you kill a number of regime leaders to force a change in the regime. They've killed Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei on the first day of the attacks. Something like 30 to 40 top leaders have been killed or decapitated. The second rung of that strategy is to destroy Iran's missile capabilities. Now these are the most potent weapons in Iran's arsenal. Iran does not have a powerful navy, army, or air force, but it has an extremely competent ballistic missile force controlled directly by the Iranian revolutionary. It has a very powerful drone, ballistic missile and cruise missile arsenal controlled directly by the IRGC, that's the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Council. The third rung of the US-Israel strategy is to degrade Iran's military capacity. Now, this involves attacks on Iranian targets like warships, conventional targets, warships, fighter jets, conventional war targets. But the primary focus of the US and Iranian, the primary focus of the Israel-US strategy is decapitation, to kill enough leaders to effect change in regime, to destroy Iran's missile and drone capabilities, destroy and degrade their capacity to launch drone and missile attacks into West Asia. Now, Iran has responded to these strategies by focusing on regime continuity.
Iranian firepower is
And they've done that by identifying several leaders who can take over from assassinated leaders. So even if you've knocked out 30 or 40 leaders, including Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei, there will be a regime continuity simply because they have identified designated successors for each official that's killed. That's one of the reasons that they are able to continue fighting. Now, Iranian officials have also said, spoken of a mosaic strategy, which means that the entire country has been split into a mosaic of about 30 independent command and control cells. Each one has its own missiles. Now, that is how they have, responded to this offensive against Iran's missile and drone capacity. That is the mosaic strategy, which means that all of the drones and all of the missiles are under designated commanders, something like 30 of them at the regional level. All of them know what to do, and they have been firing drones and cruise missiles based on their orders and their targets. Now, the third and the most important aspect of Iran's strategy is economic warfare. Now, this is something that Iran has done to West Asia. They have expanded their attacks across West Asia. They have targeted something like 8 countries in the region. They have struck at the 6 Gulf Cooperative Council sheikdoms, the 6, which means Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Qatar, Kuwait, the UAE, and Oman. It's targeted these 6 countries, Jordan, and as far as Cyprus as well. So it's like 8 of the countries in West Asia and targets in Cyprus. And the most important aspect of this, the sub aspect of this strategy has been to wage economic warfare by targeting the very visible symbols of these Gulf monarchies, which is their hotels, their airports, in some cases refineries as well. So while they have used the mosaic strategy to target the military bases of the US in the region, the US has multiple bases across West Asia. They've targeted those using drones and missiles. What the Iranians have also done, and this is very key to the strategy, that is to raise the costs for all the Gulf sheikdoms in the region, to raise the cost of this war, to bring the war to their doorstep. This is something that they have not faced in several years, at least since the 1991 Gulf War. So they have raised the cost of this by attacking the infrastructure, by attacking commercial targets inside all of these countries. And of course, the most important aspect of that is the warning to tanker traffic that move through the Straits of Hormuz, which is, of course, where 20% of the world's oil and natural gas flow through. So this is Iran responding to the Israel-US strategy of decapitation, the destruction of their drone and missile capabilities, and of course direct attacks on their military infrastructure by resorting to regime continuity, by a mosaic strategy to continue their drone and missile attacks, and of course economic warfare, targeting a range of countries in the region to trigger off economic crisis over there and bring up pressure on the US and Israel to cease and desist their operations. It remains to be seen which side will actually prevail in their strategy, because the conduct of these operations is going to remain, is going to be decided by which strategy prevails. Will it be the Israel-US strategy, or will it be Iran's strategy? This is going to literally decide how this war is going to play out in West Asia.
Mounted power launches. The joint US-Israel airstrike on the 20th.
Introducing Motorola Signature. Don't blend in, stand out. Introducing Motorola Signature. Don't blend in, stand out.
Hi, here are the top headlines presented by Motorola. Trump warns Iran, says US troops may be deployed if needed. Iran shuts Hormuz Strait. Oil tankers stranded. Global energy crisis fears rise. Iran launches major airstrike on Qatar and Dubai with ballistic missiles.
The Great Nicobar controversy. Can India's biggest island project balance growth and nature hand in hand? With the National Green Tribunal clearing the 81,000 crore port and defence project on Great Nicobar Island, a high-stakes debate takes centre stage. Development versus a fragile ecosystem. In the latest issue, India Today examines the key questions behind one of India's most ambitious projects. Read it in the latest issue of India Today, Making Sense of India. Now available for speedy delivery on Amazon and Blinkit. Subscribe now at subscriptions.intoday.in.
As they were preparing for Introducing Motorola Signature. Don't blend in, stand out. Despite these multiple strikes, Iran unleashes a massive wave of retaliation. Base in Kuwait and ships in the Iranian firepower is all Israel's advanced multi-layered air defense a deadly strike.
India Today, I'm Anjali Istiwal, and with me is Suesha Sawant. It's day 4 of the war in Middle East and West Asia. And as the tensions escalate, one good news coming in, Indians from Dubai have landed. First set of tourists have returned to India. So that's a good news.
Oh yes, absolutely. But certainly on day 4, Anjali, no signs of de-escalation yet. Yeah, rather, strategic targets that are now being aimed at. We'll get our viewers the very latest. First, a quick check of the headlines. Day 4 of US-Israel versus Iran war. Israeli and US forces release video of the attack. US missile hits Iran military vehicle. Iran army vehicles targeted and struck.
After B-2 bombers and bunker busters, Trump flaunts deadly ammo against Iran, says ammunition supply never been higher.
Warhead designed to use modern
Air India brings back passengers stranded in West Asian nations. Air India lands in Delhi with passengers who were stranded in Dubai. Emirates' 5 aircrafts left from Dubai today.
Israel's shadow war in Tehran to kill Khamenei. Traffic cameras turned into spy tools. Cyber intelligence, digital stalking to track Khamenei. Surveillance on Khamenei before strikes.
Nations Prime Minister's silence on Khamenei's killing, says government silence not neutral but abdication. Sonia expresses doubts on India's foreign policy. Sonia calls silence by the Modi government disturbing.
All right. But we will not directly get into this conflict, despite the fact that Europe might.
All right, and first up, we cut across to breaking news coming in. Netanyahu and Defense Minister of Israel, who have approved IDF move to seize additional areas in Lebanon. In fact, Israel now expanding ground operations to prevent any Hezbollah fire on border settlements. Israel now warning Hezbollah will pay heavy price for attacks. IDF is all set to create buffer zones to defend Galilee settlements. This is the latest that is just coming in, as Israel is all set to up the ante against pro-Iran groups, especially the threat of the Hezbollah, where a strong statement has been made of how they will have to pay heavy consequences in a scenario that they do get active. Anjali, really important at this point, given the fact that Israel has, of course, said that sending the troops on the ground is not something that they're aiming at, but a strong warning coming into the Hezbollah.
Right. So clearly when they said that they won't send boots to the ground was for Iran, but it seems Lebanon is fair play right now for Israel. Remember, they share a border, and because of that, the southern part of Lebanon is where they first moved in. But now what we are hearing is that they might be moving into the northern side as well. And Israel is clearly choosing to create a buffer so that they can ensure there is safety for their people, the settlements which are closer to the border of Lebanon. We know overnight there were strikes by Hezbollah. Hezbollah also claimed that that happened, and also Israel also confirmed that there were strikes, but they were neutralized. And Hezbollah has also jumped into the war as a proxy to support Iran. So clearly, Israel now ensuring that it opens front against Hezbollah as well, and it has been sending out warnings to the people who are living in Lebanon to clear certain areas which they identify as possible Hezbollah locations. They've been giving out warnings saying stay away from it, evacuate, stay 300 meters at least away from these zones.
In fact, the biggest fear at this point is also proxy activation, Hezbollah pressure that is coming in, Iraqi militias, Houthis threatening Red Sea routes. And that is the biggest concern coming in, as the IDF is now putting a very strong warning to the Hezbollah, saying that they will pay a heavy price for the attacks. IDF is all set to create buffer zones to defend the Galilee settlements. Anjali, this is important because the approval has now come in. The IDF is all set to seize additional areas in Lebanon, and Israel is going to expand ground operations to prevent Hezbollah fire on border settlements. This, as we clearly understand, that Israel in its strategy is very clearly aiming at the fact that ground troops will not be moved. It will largely be air operations. But in terms of ground operations and how now they are planning it, in order to prevent Hezbollah fire on border settlements, where they say that they will be creating buffer zones to defend Galilee settlements.
Right, and earlier reports had also come in of the Lebanese troops moving back from their forward locations as far as the border areas were concerned, borders that are shared between Israel and Lebanon. So that is also an indication of obviously an anticipation of some sort of a movement or attack that might come in from Israel. Now, let's try and understand which are the West Asia conflict zones. If you look at it, where is the skirmishes? Where are the skirmishes happening? Where is it exactly that we see conflict? Well, of course, Israel, the country which is involved in the operation and activation of an attack on Iran. So Israel itself, in fact, calls this Operation Rising Lion. It has a separate nomenclature other than US. Then, of course, there is Qatar, which is host of a base for US, which was also hit. Then there is Bahrain, which has also seen attacks because of hosting of a base. And these are some of the countries, and if you can take it forward.
Oh yes, absolutely. Qatar, Bahrain, Kuwait, UAE, Dubai, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, of course, Lebanon, Oman, Cyprus. Now, why this is important is because let's understand that as far as US bases are concerned, they have already been hit when it comes to the Gulf monarchies, and now as they are contemplating of whether action is what they need to take, or getting the talks to the diplomatic table is what is now being considered. Let's cut across to more breaking news coming in, Anjali. Air India all set to bring back 149 Indians from Dubai. In fact, that process is already underway is what we are learning. First, Air India flight from Dubai that has just landed in Delhi. Stranded passengers who've been flown in from Dubai. Certainly good news coming in, because as far as India is concerned, politics set aside, Anjali, the focus largely is on ensuring the safety of Indian diaspora to be able to bring back as many Indians, especially those in vulnerable zones. And while these flights are flying, Air India having just brought back that first flight, the pictures on your screens of how they have safely landed in New Delhi, Anjali.
It's a relief definitely for the families and for the passengers themselves. Let's cut across to India Today's Amit Bharadwaj, who is right now outside the Indira Gandhi International Airport in Delhi. Amit, do tell us what is the sign of relief or respite that you're seeing amongst the passengers who have disembarked? Have you been able to speak to anyone?
Well, Anjali, I have not only one good news, but rather three good news. So, Air India has operated 2 flights from Dubai today. Number 1 craft that flew early in the morning brought back nearly 143 Air India crew members from Air India and Air India Express. So that flight had landed safely in Delhi. It was a Delhi-Dubai flight. The second flight that we are showing the visuals to our viewers is AI 9160. This flew from Dubai, landed in Delhi, and 149 passengers, stranded passengers, were brought back to their homes, to their loved ones safely, and with all possible comfort that was possible in scenario and circumstances of this sort. And I did speak to the passengers when they landed here at IGI Airport. They were speaking about the conditions there, the sound of bombardments that they heard, and they were really concerned, emotionally also, in a way completely drained out. One such family was of a couple with a very young child, a boy child, and they were saying that they are really happy to be back in their home country, homeland. And the third information that I have to share with you is of the Oman Air. The Oman Air's flight has landed in Delhi as we speak. This was Muscat-Delhi flight. Now, why this becomes very important is that Oman Air, remember, had started a special bus fleet for the passengers who were stuck in and around Dubai, and they had chosen Sharjah as a point for that. So the passengers were asked if at all they could reach Sharjah. From Sharjah, this special bus fleet had brought many of these passengers to Muscat, from where the flight operations are happening now in a much more safer environment. So that Oman Air's Muscat-Delhi flight has landed as well. I believe the passengers must be going through the immigration process right now, and after that you will see them stepping out of the international arrivals gate at IGI's T3 terminal. So these are very important updates, and for our viewers' understanding, these numbers will further increase because Indigo is supposed to fly 4 special flights from Jeddah, which are bound for Mumbai, Ahmedabad and Hyderabad. The details of those flights are not being shared by Indigo, possibly because there are multiple government agencies involved in this process, and they don't want to, by any means jeopardize the entire process. And even on India Today, we are breaking this story of the flights entering or coming to the Indian cities only when they enter the Indian airspace. So for Air India AI 916, once it entered the Indian airspace, we told our viewers, as well as this particular flight, Oman Air, once it entered the Indian airspace, we told the story of these passengers being, returning to India. So there's Indigo 4 flights, and there are 4 more flights of SpiceJet, which is supposed to fly from Fujairah today to different destinations in India, including Delhi and Kochi. So there are different aircraft that are flying back to the country, but the bigger concern is whether we can get our numbers increased as far as the Dubai scenario is concerned, because we saw as to how Emirates had, their flight, 5 of their flights actually flying out of Dubai. You had 2 of Air India flights flying out of Dubai. And in fact, this morning, Mumbai-Dubai flight of Emirates had landed there safely, but 3 of the Indian flights which were bound for Dubai had to turn back. Back to you.
Right, thank you, Amit, for all those details. So clearly, there are Indians now who are returning, and as they come in, as they enter the Indian airspace, we bring you all the details. Now, with the entire West Asia engulfed in the US-Israel versus Iran conflict, global flight operations remain under strain. First flight of Air India with stranded passengers from Dubai landed in the morning, and now subsequently more flights are landing. 149 passengers, including crew members of Air India Express, have also returned home. A flight from Muscat also arrived at Delhi's IGI airport today.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Operations at Dubai International Airport and Abu Dhabi International Airport partially resumed after recent disruptions, even as the threat of strikes loom large. The impact on Indian aviation that has been significant. One Emirates flight from Mumbai that has landed in Dubai. 3 to 4 Dubai-bound Emirates inbound flights from Delhi, Chennai and Bengaluru have returned to India after reports of blasts, following reports of explosions in Riyadh after a drone attack. Flights bound for Saudi Arabia have returned after they took off globally. Operations of Qatar Airways remain suspended over closure of airspace in Qatar. On Monday alone, 357 flights that were cancelled, adding to 444 cancellations the previous day and 411 the day before that. Now, among Indian carriers, Air India Express that has resumed services to and from Muscat starting today. However, Air India operations that will remain suspended until the end of the day.
Meanwhile, Indigo is operating 10 special relief flights from Saudi Arabia to India. These flights are aimed at bringing back stranded passengers subject to necessary approvals and prevailing airspace conditions.
Indian tourist लोग अभी भी वहाँ फंसे हुए हैं, तो उन लोगों को अगर यूएई गवर्नमेंट उनका स्टे का कॉस्ट वगैरह उठा ले तो थोड़ा उनके लिए हेल्पफुल हो जाएगा, क्योंकि एवरीथिंग इज वेरी कॉस्टली ओवर देयर है ना. सिचुएशन उतना खराब नहीं है, लेकिन इंटरसेप्शंस और ये सब तो हो रहे हैं, है ना. लेकिन बहुत ही रेयर है, मतलब कोई किसी इलाके में हो रहा है, कभी किसी इलाके में हो रहा है, इस टाइप पे है. तो 28 को हमारा वापसी था, लेकिन हम लोग अभी आए, अभी हम लोग का 4 दिन से हम लोग वहाँ रुके हुए थे. रियली एयर इंडिया को बहुत ही मैं ग्रेटफुल हूँ कि उन लोगों ने इतना अच्छा हम लोग को सपोर्ट किया और जैसे तैसे हम लोग को लेके आए वहाँ से.
I didn't receive any notification till yet, so now I have to go back because I didn't receive any notification, anything.
Right.
So we will see from my company, because my company provide this ticket.
सब कुछ ऑपरेशनल है वहाँ पर, सब कुछ ऑपरेशनल है और रूम्स वगैरह सब अवेलेबल है, तो हम लोग को स्टे मिल गया था, but we have to bear the cost.
Destruction of Iranian missile launcher.
No, but we're not going to go into the exercise of what we will or will not do. I think it's one of those.
And we cut across to more breaking news coming in. Tehran's Motahari hospital that has been damaged by explosion nearby. In fact, details that are just coming in of how the Tehran hospital that stands damaged in the Israeli strike. Glass shattered, charred rooms, beds are broken, equipment that is ruined in strikes. Those pictures on our screens, Anjali, of how the hospital has taken a complete hit.
Right. Remember, this is the hospital that was reported to have been struck by the strikes initially as well. Now, these pictures are now coming in finally. In fact, WHO had said that they will try to independently verify if hospitals have been struck or not. But this is important that Iran chooses to release pictures of hospitals being struck after it chooses to show pictures of certain funerals of students, girl students being hit. So now we see on our screens visual of a hospital that was possibly targeted by Israeli strikes and US strikes. So the question that will be raised is, are the civilian infrastructures also under attack? Were they damaged in the initial strike as well? While pictures of it are now finally coming to the fore, which Iran claims is because of the strikes that happened due to Israel and US.
Oh yes, absolutely. And you know, while we hear the different stakeholders saying that they don't want to cause any harm to the civilian population, but this becomes extremely sensitive because this is a direct damage to a hospital where many of those patients may have been recovering. Although we do understand, Anjali, that as far as the Motahari hospital is concerned, the WHO is still to issue a statement confirming direct hit. Of course, earlier we had seen how the Gandhi hospital had been confirmed damaged and was later evacuated. Motahari hospital again is among those medical facilities that is under assessment, and there now the Iranian authorities having released these pictures of the sort of damage that has come into this hospital. Those pictures on your screens of how the ceiling has broken, the shards of glass that are all over, and while the hospital has been evacuated, but this is the extent of damage caused.
Right, and this gives an opportunity to Iran to appeal to the international community, and this is the reason why these visuals are coming to the fore, because Iran is now continuously asking the international community to put pressure on Israel and on US to stop the strikes. Well, remember, this is a war that is not just for on the ground through the airspace, but also in media and propaganda. And that's exactly what is happening now. Iran is clearly stating to the world that Israel and US have chosen to hit civilian facilities, and they have also said earlier that they have hit residential areas, school buildings, and now finally there are these visuals that are coming out of hospitals being damaged that you can see on your screen right now. Equipment which is lying scattered around, hospital beds that are damaged, not even a single patient to be seen on the site.
Oh yes, absolutely. And Anjali, let's shift our focus to more breaking news coming in.
High-speed maneuverability. Capable of reaching terminal velocities between Mach 13 and 15.
And details just coming in of how Israel forces continue to pound Lebanon's Beirut. In fact, these pictures caught on camera of how Hezbollah centers were blown away by Israel. Hezbollah command centers that have been completely destroyed in these strikes. The IDF completed a wave of strikes on key Hezbollah centers of gravity in Beirut. Communication components that were used by the Hezbollah's intelligence have been struck.
Well, a short while ago, the IDF of Israel completed a wave of strikes on command centers, weapons storage facilities, and satellite communication components belonging to Hezbollah's intelligence headquarters in Beirut. These assets were operating under civilian cover, is what Israel is claiming. Among the targets struck were communication sites that were being used by Hezbollah as terrorist infrastructure for carrying out attacks, intelligence gathering, and to support its propaganda efforts, according to Israel.
All the targets that have been struck were used by terrorist organizations to plan and execute various attack frameworks against IDF soldiers and Israeli civilians. And this is the latest that is just coming in to how Israeli forces continue to pound Lebanon's Beirut. In fact, Anjali, just a short while ago, we also broke the news of how IDF has issued a strong warning to Hezbollah to ensure that the consequences will be massive in a scenario that they do gather. And while they continue to build bunkers, these are intense strikes that have been carried out in Beirut, especially the southern suburbs and areas that are linked to the Hezbollah. This after the Lebanese group had launched rockets and drones towards northern Israel. All of this got on camera, those pictures full frame of how Hezbollah centers have now received an all-out blow by Israel. Hezbollah command centers that have been destroyed in these strikes. There were explosions and plumes of smoke that were seen over the southern district of Lebanese capital, which, remember, is Hezbollah's stronghold. And while casualties will be confirmed at a later point, but certainly action being taken by the IDF on an all-out wave of strikes.
Okay, let's dip into some more breaking news coming in from Lebanon.
Well, it's Iran's most Israel.
Lebanon is saying that invasion by Israeli troops has happened. So we get a confirmation here from Lebanon as well as to the actions that have been taken by the IDF and Israeli troops. So Lebanon's state-run national news agency had said that Lebanese army is evacuating the advanced positions along the Israeli border. Earlier also we mentioned how Israel and Lebanon share a border, and the southern part of the Lebanon is what was at stake. And now the agency is saying that the troops are redeploying to other posts and moving away from the border with Israel. The report comes after Israel's military said it is conducting operations inside Lebanon along the border with Israel.
So that is a direct confirmation on how Israel has gone on to strike Lebanon, and now they are clearly moving from those outposts, from the border area. Now remember, that happens to be a stronghold of the Hezbollah. IDF also saying that there is an all-out offensive against Hezbollah infrastructure, and southern Beirut suburbs that are particularly being evacuated while these strikes continue. But that's the confirmation coming in from Lebanon clearly on how they have now cleared. There's this news agency that has gone on to put out details of how the troops are being redeployed to other posts, and the military has said that it is conducting operations inside Lebanon along the border with Israel.
Now, this is definitely a worrying situation as the war definitely now is spreading. So it is not just about striking Hezbollah from within Israel's borders. Now Israel is moving into Lebanon. It is taking over certain forward posts of Lebanon, and the troops, Lebanese army troops, this is to be noted, these troops are of Lebanese army, are moving back. They're evacuating their positions, and they're moving and they're being redeployed to other positions. So the attack that was earlier only initiated by Hezbollah, now it seems there is a movement of the Israeli troops within Lebanon. Would this go forward? Will it just be the southern area of Lebanon, or will it move forward to the north side as well? That remains to be seen, but it is clear that IDF and the Israeli troops are not ready to back down.
And while we await that confirmation, there are details of how there have been casualties that have been reported in Lebanon as part of the Israeli strikes and clashes. But again, the exact confirmation coming in. However, this move that has led to how the Lebanese army has now decided to redeploy its other troops, and they are moving away from the border area, from southern part of where Israel is primarily targeting, because that happens to be the stronghold of the Hezbollahs. A strong warning that has come in from Israel to also say that they should not get active, because that, remember, activation of proxies, that happens to be the biggest fear at this point. And which is why the southern districts of Lebanon's capital, especially Déjà, which is a stronghold of the Hezbollah, has received a hit. Now, the Lebanese government has also condemned Hezbollah's actions and called for the group to disarm, while lamenting the widening violence. And for the very reason we've heard of how the troops are now being redeployed.
Right. Now, let's go back to understand why this all started, the initiation of this entire conflict. Well, it was the death of the Ayatollah Ali Khamenei by the US and Israeli forces. Iran's supreme leader, Khamenei, was killed in an airstrike targeting his compound in downtown Tehran on February 28th. However, Israel's plot to kill Khamenei has been ongoing for many years, as per UK media reports. As per Financial Times report, Israel spent years hacking Tehran's traffic cameras and penetrating mobile phone networks to monitor movements of Iran's supreme leader and his security detail ahead of his assassination.
And nearly all traffic cameras in Tehran that had been hacked for years together, with footage encrypted and transmitted to servers in Tel Aviv and southern Israel. Take a look at how this plot was actually being hatched for many years, to reach that point, to be able to locate Khamenei. Israel's kill Khamenei plot, where Tehran traffic cameras were being used as spy tools. Israel spent years together hacking Tehran's key traffic cameras. Israel hacked all the traffic cameras in Tehran in order to locate Khamenei's movements. Israel monitored Khamenei from traffic cameras, where his entourage was moving, how the cars were moving. CCTV footage that was sent to Israeli servers. Israel had been hacking phone networks in order to monitor Khamenei's movement. And remember, this was not just an overnight operation. This was not just something that had been happening for months, but something that had been happening for years. They had been hacking those important traffic cameras, the CCTV footage, all the movement of the entourage, of how the entire envoy of Khamenei was moving. They had been tracking every single detail of where all they move, where the important meetings happen, what happens when he moves to his residence, and all of that, joining the dots together, is how they tracked that particular movement to where Khamenei was holding that high security meeting, and that's when they struck.
Right, absolutely. So clearly an attack that was deliberate and after months and years of planning. Now, on the day of day 4, I beg your pardon, of Operation Epic Fury, as US calls it, US continues to bomb key Iranian targets. US and Israel have now launched strikes at key military targets in Iran. The Israeli Air Force eliminated soldiers from the defense array of Iran. The Air Force aircraft attacked and neutralized a squad of soldiers from Iran. Israel Air Force continues to attack sites of fire arrays and Iranian ballistic missile launchers. They are focusing on those key areas as their targets. Last night, it is believed US B-1 bombers struck deep inside Iran to degrade Iranian ballistic missile capabilities. US said it will destroy their missiles and raise their missile industry to the ground.
US forces have said that they are now hitting Iran surgically, overwhelmingly and unapologetically. US has further said that Operation Epic Fury was now laser focused on destroying Iranian offensive missiles. US forces have also hit Iranian warship deployed in Gulf of Oman and said that they will continue to defend their assets. Meanwhile, India Today's special animated video shows the bird's eye view of the war in the last 3 days. Take a look.
We have the strongest and most powerful by far military in the world, and we will easily prevail. We're already substantially ahead of our time projections, but whatever the time is, it's okay. Whatever it takes, we will always, and we have right from the beginning, we projected 4 to 5 weeks, but we have capability to go far longer than that. We'll do it. Whatever somebody said today, they said, oh, well, the president wants to do it really quickly. After that, he'll get bored. I don't get bored. There's nothing boring about this. Do you agree with that, Pete? I don't think there's anything, Mr. General. I think there's nothing boring about it. Somebody actually said from the media, I think he'll get bored after about a week or two. No, we don't get bored. I never get bored. If I got bored, I wouldn't be standing here right now, I guarantee you that, to go through what I had to go through. We also projected 4 weeks to terminate the military leadership, and as you know, that was done in about an hour, so we're ahead of schedule there by a lot. Our objectives are clear. First, we're destroying Iran's missile capabilities, and you see that happening on an hourly basis, and their capacity to produce brand new ones, and pretty good ones they make. Second, we're annihilating their Navy. We've knocked out already 10 ships. They're at the bottom of the sea. Third, we're ensuring that the world's #1 sponsor of terror can never obtain a nuclear weapon. Never going to have a nuclear weapon. I said that from the beginning. They're never going to have a nuclear weapon. They were on the road to getting one legitimately through a deal that was signed foolishly by our country. And finally, we're ensuring that the Iranian regime cannot continue to arm, fund, and direct terrorist armies outside of their borders.
They're suffering a tremendous amount of damage. Honestly, again, I'm not going to give away the details of our tactical efforts, but the hardest hits are yet to come from the U.S. military. The next phase will be even more punishing on Iran than it is right now. Someone was screaming, how long will it take? I don't know how long it'll take. We have objectives. We will do this as long as it takes to achieve those objectives, and we will achieve those objectives. The world will be a safer place when we're done with this operation. You see the attacks they're conducting right now? They're attacking airports, they're attacking hotels, they're hitting not just military bases, they're attacking our embassies directly, they're attacking facilities that have nothing to do with war or with military, and that's a weakened Iran. That's in Iran despite years of sanction. Imagine a year from now, or a year and a half from now, the capabilities they would have to inflict damage on us. It's an unacceptable risk, especially in the hands of a regime that's run by radical clerics. The Ayatollah was a radical cleric. That entire regime is led by radical clerics who don't make geopolitical decisions. So two things, and two things can be true. Number one is our mission and our focus is the destruction of their ballistic missile capabilities and their ability to manufacture them, as well as the threat posed by their Navy to global shipping. That's our objective. That said, we would not mind, we would not be heartbroken, and we hope that the Iranian people can overthrow this government and establish a new future for that country. We would love for that to be possible. But the objective of this mission is the destruction of their ballistic missile capabilities and of their naval capabilities.
I hear the people are...
Israeli military released these images showing destruction.
Okay, we have breaking news coming in. It seems that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and the Defense Minister of Israel have approved the IDF to move to seize additional areas in Lebanon. Remember, already Israeli forces are there in Lebanon, especially the southern part, and they had said that we will occupy the northern part as well if required, and there will be parallel actions and there will be a buffer zone created. Now we know that the Prime Minister and the Defense Minister have given a go-ahead to the Israeli forces, and Israel is expanding its ground operations and moving into Lebanon, and the idea is to prevent Hezbollah to fire on border settlements. There are many Israeli settlements of Jews that are there on the border with Lebanon that are under fire, and this is what worries Israel.
Absolutely. Israel has even warned Hezbollah that they will have to pay heavy price for the attacks. The IDF is all set to create buffer zones to defend the Galilee settlements. In fact, the confirmation that has also come in from Lebanon, who said that the invasion by Israeli troops has been ongoing. The strikes have been multiple. Lebanon state-run national news agency that has said that Lebanese army is evacuating advanced positions along Israeli border. The agency has said that the troops are redeploying to other posts. The report that comes after Israel's military has said that it is conducting operations inside Lebanon along the border with Israel. So this is the confirmation that is coming in fact, from both sides, to how not just the Lebanon troops have decided to move, they will be redeployed, but also the fact that Israel is going all out, especially because the southern part along the border is the Hezbollah stronghold, and that is why the warning also coming in from Hezbollah that they will face massive consequences, but there should be no proxy activation.
But clearly Hezbollah had jumped into this entire conflict, and now joining us is Mayan Hoffman, and she's joining us live from Jerusalem. Thank you very much, Ms. Hoffman, for speaking with India today. So it seems that you are on your way to some place, but do tell us what is the situation there in Israel, the key cities, and also the fact that IDF is finally now moving into Lebanon. So the threat from Hezbollah, is it huge?
Tehran's message is clear.
All right, not too sure if Mayan Hoffman is still connected with us. Clearly, Anjali, she has been moving from one point to the other, also driving at that, and we are hoping to reconnect that line with her. But remember, this is exceedingly important, and of course, Mayan would be able to give us a better sense of what exactly is it along the border, especially with regards to the continuous strikes on part of the IDF, of how Israel is going all out to target that particular belt, but also how the Lebanese army is now reacting. Now, why IDF is doing this? They are saying that they are hitting the Hezbollah command centers, weapon storage, senior operatives, and that is why they are launching these attacks, because they are very clear that there should be no proxy activation, especially when it comes to the Hezbollah. There have been many of those explosions that you see, plumes of smoke in the sky, especially along the southern districts of Lebanese capital. There have been several casualties, but that of course is a confirmation that will come in. IDF saying that it is a targeted offensive against the Hezbollah infrastructure, and that is why they are going on to target this particular belt. But we also take a look at how US is targeting those strategic locations in Iran and the sort of weaponry that is being used, Anjali.
Right, absolutely. Let's try and understand why and where US is targeting. So target number one is Iran's ballistic missiles. Iran has a wide array of ballistic missiles, whether it is short range, medium range, or long range. It does not have intercontinental ballistic missiles, but it has the arsenal and firepower. Target number two, maritime mining capabilities. What is that? Well, Iran is capable of laying mines in the Strait of Hormuz if required. It uses small submarines to do that, and that is another target for the US that it wants to destroy. Target number 3, the air defense system of Iran. Any country's air defense system is their first line of defense against air strikes, and we have seen US and Israel breach that earlier also, but they want to completely destroy it. But the air power of Iran is still activated. That is worrisome for US. Target number 4, command and control networks of all the forces, whether it is the Revolutionary Guard Corps or other forces. They are trying to completely destroy the command and control networks. This is what Donald Trump has said in front of the Congress. It had to inform what all are their targets.
Right. And I'm being told, Anjali, that Mayan Hoffman is back with us on the broadcast. We, of course, saw you, Mayan, a short while ago as you continue to drive from one location to the other. But Mayan, I would like to see you on the screen, of course, to our team also, to get a sense of what exactly is the border situation like, especially with the back-to-back strikes along the border. This, of course, as the IDF issues a strong warning to Hezbollah to ensure that they will face strong consequences if they don't back off. And even the Lebanese army, we now understand, they are redeploying their troops and moving them away from the border.
Missile attack on Israel.
100%. So, as you mentioned before, there was just a statement put out by the Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz, letting us know that Israel, that Netanyahu and the defense establishment has approved us going further into Lebanon to take hold of some of the key Hezbollah strongholds in order to ensure that more missiles don't hit the residents of the region. As I was driving, as I'm still driving now, we just had a direct strike on some homes in the Galilee, some apartment buildings. 4 people were injured in that attack, one of them a little bit more seriously than the rest. According to Magen David Adom, our response team, we're just getting initial reports on that happened just now. You have to remember that the majority of the residents of northern Israel, the Galilee and the Golan, the communities on the border with Lebanon, were evacuated for more than a year and a half during the beginning of the war. When Hezbollah joined the war against Hamas on October 8th, they started shooting rockets, deadly rockets, for really the better part of a year and plus, a year and a half. In November 2025, we signed a ceasefire. The Lebanese government was committed to disarming Hezbollah, but has not successfully managed to. And just yesterday, Hezbollah announced that it was going to join Iran in the fight against Israel. And we started to see rockets all night long. We have had rockets coming in from Lebanon into northern Israel, whereas we had relative quiet in central Israel and Jerusalem. We did have the Hezbollah rockets all night in the north. Today, we also had a drone come from Lebanon into the central area of the city. We were all forced to go into our shelters last minute as that drone came into the main part of Israel.
Right. Mayan, do also tell us what kind of cooperation or non-cooperation is Israel facing as far as Lebanese army is concerned? Because we do understand, although it is separate from Hezbollah, but Lebanese army, is it moving back voluntarily, and what is really happening there?
Yeah, so my understanding is as follows. What they're saying is that the Lebanese government and the Lebanese army are actually on Israel's side. Of course, they don't want to see an escalation, and you've seen calls from Lebanon against Hezbollah asking them not to get involved in the war. But you have to remember that the Lebanese army is weak. One of the reasons that they haven't been able to disarm Hezbollah up until now is because, first of all, there are some Shia factions within the Lebanese army that are supportive of Hezbollah. Second of all, they're not a strong enough army to be able to counter Hezbollah. So what we're seeing is that even though there are calls from the Lebanese to stop, for Hezbollah to stop, they aren't being effective, and therefore Hezbollah is continuing the fight with more and more drones and rockets being fired into Israel.
Right.
Right. Mayan, many thanks for joining us at this point. And of course, we keep coming back to you for further updates. Fast-paced developments that have been coming in, and the most striking pictures that come in on day 4 of the war. Let's quickly take you through it. The conflict in West Asia that is escalating, both sides on the offensive. 50 top images coming in from all fronts.
Fresh explosions were heard in Iran's Isfahan after Natanz, Isfahan was reportedly bombed as well. Remember, Isfahan is home to a key nuclear research site, and Tehran claims that the nuclear facility was struck.
Amid the raging war, a magnitude of 4.3 earthquake that struck Iran's Déjà region with tremors that were felt in surrounding areas.
Hezbollah has claimed responsibility for launching drones at Israel overnight. According to the IDF, 2 drones originating from Lebanon were intercepted and there were no reports of any impacts in Israel. Hezbollah says it targeted an Israeli air traffic control base on Mount Meron and Ramat David Air Base.
Amid the ongoing war, Israel has said that it is not considering deploying ground forces in Iran, calling a ground offensive impractical, and emphasized that airstrikes remain its primary military strategy.
It's one of those fallacies for a long time.
Oman State News Agency reported that several drones targeted fuel tanks at the Duqm commercial port. One of 3 drones struck a fuel tank, but the resulting damage has been contained.
Amid the crisis, Cyprus is on high alert after a drone struck multiple areas of the British Royal Air Force Base in Akrotiri.
France plans to send anti-missile and anti-drone defense systems to Cyprus. French Foreign Minister Catherine Barrot stated that France is ready to defend its partners if assistance is requested, noting that around 400,000 French nationals are present in regions affected by the Middle East crisis.
China has expressed diplomatic support for Iran in the West Asia conflict, saying it supports Iran in safeguarding its sovereignty and territorial integrity, and urged the United States and Israel to immediately stop military actions and prevent further escalation.
Floors and beds at Tehran's Motahari hospital were scattered with shattered glass and fallen ceiling boards after it was evacuated a day earlier following a nearby strike. The World Health Organization said it is working to verify reports of damage to the hospital.
A complete shutdown that has been observed in Punch to mourn the killing of Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei and to protest against Israel and the US. Police and CRPF are on high alert to deal with any situation and maintain law and order.
Israel's IDF is now attacking in Tehran and Beirut simultaneously. The Air Force has now begun a wave of extensive strikes against the Iranian terror regime and the Hezbollah terror organization.
A drone attack targeted a US military base near Iraq's Erbil airport amid West Asia crisis.
Satellite and aerial images of the ongoing Iran-Israel war show how only a few days of intense strikes have devastated key military facilities and infrastructure in Iran. Before and after imagery highlights the rapid expansion of the conflict and how the war is spreading across West Asia.
That school children were killed in a US-Israeli airstrike on a girls' elementary school in Minab. Iranian state media reported that the death toll at the school has risen to 165, many of them young girls.
According to Iranian state media, 5 members of Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps have been killed in US-Israeli strikes.
After the B-2 bombers and bunker buster strikes, Trump flaunted the U.S. ammunition supply against Iran, saying that ammo levels have never been higher and that the U.S. has a virtually unlimited supply of munitions.
The ceiling of this summit is adorned with Iranian national flag, which also captured missiles
After Iran hit Saudi oil refinery, satellite images show damage at Ras Tanura oil refinery in Saudi Arabia and other facilities.
Aramco plant.
After the death of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, people in Baghdad, especially in Shiite majority neighborhoods, continue to hold mourning processions and public gatherings. A commercial airplane took off from Beirut amid rising smoke and loud explosions shortly after Israeli airstrikes hit the Lebanese capital. Amid the West Asia war escalation, Air India is bringing back its stranded passengers. Air India flight AI916 has reached Delhi with stranded Indian passengers.
IDF continues to target Hezbollah operatives in Lebanon. Israel reportedly targeted weapons depots and other infrastructure across the country. In the latest video, a thick smoke can be seen rising from a building after strikes in Beirut's Nahia.
Allahu Akbar.
Israel has carried out heavy airstrikes on the Hezbollah-dominated southern suburbs of Lebanon. People heard warplanes and bombs being dropped as airstrikes were carried out over wide swaths of the south of the country, collapsing buildings in villages near Tyre.
Israel carried out attack on Hezbollah hideouts in Beirut after the Iran-backed Lebanese group launched missiles and drones towards Israel in retaliation for the killing of Iran's supreme leader. IDF is targeting command centers and weapons storage facilities of Hezbollah.
With the latest thermal imagery accessed by India today, Operation Epic Fury seems to be laser-focused on destroying Iranian offensive missiles. U.S. forces have claimed that they are hitting Iran surgically, overwhelmingly and unapologetically.
U.S. forces have released video of destroying Iran's naval fleet in the Gulf of Oman. American military says it struck 11 Iranian Navy ships as part of its strike. United States justified the attack and said Iranian regime harassed and attacked international shipping in the Gulf of Oman for decades.
I think it's one of those policies for a long time.
Amid the ongoing conflict between U.S., Israel and Iran, the Iraqi resistance group claimed that they carried out drone strike on hotel housing U.S. troops in Erbil region of Iraq.
Iraqi resistance group Saraya Aulia al-Dam released footage of targeting the US-run Victoria base near Baghdad International Airport.
UAE air defenses are currently dealing with missile threats. The government has urged all citizens and residents are requested to remain in safe places and not leave until instructions are issued by competent authorities.
U.S. Department of State has urged all Americans to immediately depart more than a dozen countries in West Asia. The latest advisory applies to United Arab Emirates, UAE, Bahrain, Egypt, Iran, Iraq, Israel, the occupied West Bank and Gaza, Jordan, Kuwait, Lebanon, Oman, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Syria and Yemen.
Iran's foreign Foreign Minister Syed Abbas Araghchi shared an aerial image showing rows of freshly dug graves. Iran claims that 160 innocent young girls who were killed in the US-Israel bombing of a primary school.